I'm just going to go ahead and talk about this series. Actually, I was going to put it off to a different show, but the series is already over, so, there's no reason for me not to talk about it now. Milwaukee Bucks versus Miami Heat. Milwaukee with a 4-0 sweep of the Miami Heat. Very interesting series in the aspect that it's almost like these teams completely flipped positioning as opposed to last year. Last year, Miami was quote-unquote considered an underdog. They were mentally prepared. They were mentally tough. Obviously, say what you want about the bubble and the different environment that had for the NBA teams, but last year, Milwaukee looked underprepared. They looked tired. They looked like they were disinterested. Giannis couldn't buy a bucket in clutch moments when he needed to. And whereas opposed to this year, they could definitely make the case that was the Miami Heat. Miami looked tired, unprepared, disinterested, and they shot the ball poorly. The Heat shot 36% in Game 1, 40% in Game 2, 38% in Game 3, and 44% in Game 4. That's just not going to win you very many basketball games. And sure, Milwaukee is a great team defensively, but with an offense like the Miami Heat has, where Bam Adebayo is a very dynamic player, he seems very timid to shoot the ball at times. Tyler Hero was nowhere to be found. Hero actually shot 12 from 38, 31% from the field throughout the entire series, and Jimmy Buckets had, I didn't run the numbers on Butler, but he had an equally as, I guess, I don't want to necessarily use the word depressing, disappointing is probably the better word. He had a equally as disappointing series as Hero did. And, Duncan Robinson can't do everything. Miami just didn't look offensively prepared. They didn't look energized, and I'm sure you can make the case that, hey, look, Miami being in the finals last year, they had the least time during the offseason. They struggled with injuries throughout the season. They struggled with COVID throughout the season. Were they really ever going to be challenges for the Milwaukee Bucks, who seem to have a pretty solid and consistent season the entire way through? Drew Holiday, the addition of him, just makes this Milwaukee team better defensively, and he'll give you 20 and 10 a night. And look, if you look at it from that perspective, rather, the Miami Heat never stood a chance against Milwaukee in this series. Not only is it a revenge series, which 9 times out of 10 you should take the revenge in a revenge series or a revenge game. So not only was this a revenge series for Milwaukee, they come in motivated. You kind of got the sense that Miami was just really, really tired and unable to keep up, and obviously that fatigue might have forced them to not shoot the ball so well. Again, 36% in Game 1, 40% Game 2, 38 in 3, and 44 in 4. And, it's kind of an interesting idea about fatigue when it comes to the Miami Heat, because the LA Lakers are on the opposite side of things, and they appear to be playing the best basketball that they've been playing all season. They are absolutely manhandling the Suns over in their series in the Western Conference. So it's like, okay, well, how much can you really put the blame on conditioning and COVID when it comes to Miami Heat? Realistically speaking, I think you could put a decent amount of emphasis on that, but when it comes down to X's and O's, and I know that's a football term, when it comes down to X's and O's, look, you take a look at the two teams. Milwaukee is a drastically different team than they were last year. Drew Holiday makes them so much better. Chris Middleton and Giannis Antetokounmpo, instead of being a solidified 1 and 2, it's almost like Giannis is the 1, and with all the pieces around it, it's a collective 2, and Chris Middleton can just kind of vibe and play the game that he wants to. He doesn't have to shoot the basketball. He's not forced to shoot the basketball, rather. It just seemed like Milwaukee was better prepared, better equipped. It was a completely different team, and realistically speaking, if you thought that the series was going to go any other way than it actually did, I'd be questioning you a little bit, and that sucks to say because I was born and raised a Miami Heat fan. Obviously, I don't have any bias when it comes to the Hard Headed Sports Podcast, but realistically speaking, the Miami Heat just did not stand a chance against the Milwaukee Bucks in this series. Again, revenge series, you take the revenge, and the fact that Milwaukee is defensively just a much better team than last year. Drew Holiday makes the team so much better over Eric Bledsoe. Giannis seemed to be able to do whatever he got out to early leads, and, once Milwaukee gets out to an early lead and they don't have to shoot their way past you, it's very difficult to come back from, and the Miami Heat just looked completely lost, tired, disinterested, and they kind of just laid down like a dog, which is very anti-Miami-esque. It was very against the culture, especially the culture that Jimmy Butler likes to instill in the teams that he plays for. It was just a disappointing series. I would have hoped that it was closer, but when you look at the factors going into it, how much rest that the Bucks had throughout the season as opposed to the Heat, which had injuries and COVID throughout the season and a shorter offseason. You can argue that the fatigue is what finally caught up to the Miami Heat, apart from the fact that Milwaukee was just a better basketball team. So I was going to talk about that series on a later show, but since it's already done, I was expecting it to go 6 games, but it went 4. And if you're a Milwaukee Bucks fan, I'm sure you're feeling really happy right now that your Bucks got the revenge. It's going to be interesting to see if they take on Boston or Nets in the second round. I would imagine it's going to be the Brooklyn Nets. Kevin Durant versus Giannis Antetokounmpo is about to be Godzilla versus King Kong of the basketball world. So Milwaukee gets a couple of weeks, or at least 1 week of an extra rest before they take on the Nets, and that is going to be the series to watch, I think, moving forward. Hey folks, thank you so much for listening to this segment from the Hard-Headed Sports Podcast. If you enjoyed this segment, make sure that you drop a like on the video and a comment. It helps me out a bunch. And if you're interested in watching more segments like this from the show after the show has been completed, you should definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you're interested in listening to the entire show in its full-length entirety, you should listen to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Anchor. Once again, thank you so much for watching the video. My name is Nick Ryan, and I will see you all again very soon.